Aloha ukulele friends, this is Neal Chin here, and welcome to Sleepy Ukulele. I'm really excited to teach this class with you guys just because I really enjoy playing the ukulele into the wee small hours of the morning. Kind of softly and gently, and as a way to kind of sing yourself a little lullaby. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to be looking at, which I hope you do have, the sheet over here of Sleepy Ukulele. We're going to be looking at this kind of two little tunes that I wrote here. This first would be the first two kind of lines here. It's one tune. It's called a minor lullaby. And then we're going to look at kind of a way to kind of build our phrases together and make them sound cohesive in a way that is moving, but yet not restricted to the rhythm. Because as we might experience often when we're playing music late at night, we just want to play something that's soothing and kind of relaxing to kind of bring down the nervous system, if you will. Okay? So, on that note, go ahead and grab your sheet here, and let's take a look at it together, one line at a time. Here we go. All right, so really the two biggest things here that I want us to think about as we go through this is number one is to think about phrasing and the way that we're phrasing these lines, and then number two to really think about our tone. You know, I think kind of generally speaking, I think for these pieces here, it's going to really work nicely if we kind of go for a nice kind of gliding, so to say, kind of smooth and warm sound from our instruments. Um, and oftentimes I find in order to achieve that, it kind of asks us to slow down, which how appropriate for a sleepy ukulele passage. Okay, so let's take a look at the first tune over here, minor lullaby. Okay. Okay. Now this song Minor Lullaby over here is just built around a couple of phrases. You can use the lyrics too to kind of help you move through it as well to think about it. Because especially, I feel like when we're playing a lullaby, they're having the kind of lyrical, kind of sing-song kind of quality to your playing, I think is really nice. Just kind of picture yourself being, sung a lullaby, and kind of what would kind of put you to ease and what would put you to sleep. Okay. Now, because of this too, again, I've put some rhythmic notation in here just to kind of help guide us along. But I really do encourage you to take all the time in the world, okay, to really kind of soak in the quality of each chord and each note that you play. Yeah, if there's a moment that you find that you enjoy, maybe hold on to it for a little bit longer. Okay. Now it starts off really, just kind of centered around three chord ideas here, right? An A minor, which we can play 2 0 0 0. At a point later on, we're going to go to a D minor 9 chord, which is just barring the 5th fret and then bringing down the ninth of the note E over on the A string here. And then we're going to have this really fun, juicy chord here, okay, called an E7 flat 9. Okay. And it does suspiciously look like a diminished chord, and maybe in another context it could be a diminished, but for us today, for our minor lullaby, it most definitely is an E7 flat 9. Just to quickly illustrate, if we do take away our middle finger over here and look at these three, there's our E7 chord, right? Maybe we play it like this instead. Okay? But by playing it with this kind of fingering, we can nestle in this note just in the middle of the chord, so to say, or add the flat 9, the note F, okay? And adds a really beautiful color, kind of dark, melancholy color, to our E7 chord. Okay? So if we think about those three shapes, okay, even just by playing them, you can kind of start to hear the outline of the melody. Because now with our fence posts in place, all we got to do is just link them together, so to say. Okay? So in this case, right, we take the first one, which spans the fretboard. Open, 2, 3, we go all the way up to the 10th fret. I'm going to encourage you to take some time to really sink into that note. Because as we go higher on the fretboard, these notes get smaller, right? Literally in the sense that the frets are smaller, and smaller in the sense that they're higher in pitch. So to kind of counteract the plinkiness, if you will, or sometimes that tinny sound our ukuleles can make, really try to get a nice strong grip on your finger and take your time with your right hand, however you're picking with your thumb, or if you're finger picking, nice clear sound. Okay. From there, we're going to fold in to our lovely D minor 9 chord. Okay. And I find that this is maybe a nice way to think of the first phrase, right? Lyrically here, it's once again my love. And if you were maybe saying this passage or just even speaking it, I think this would be a great opportunity to take a breath in. Which brings us to phrasing, right? And a great way to kind of help measure your phrasing and to understand it, you know? That's why if you start to sing the melodies that you play, you'd be surprised, because if you just note, so to say, when you take a breath in, it's a good indicator to kind of say, like, you know, this would be a bite-sized piece of an idea to listen to, yeah? You know, I'm sometimes guilty of this myself. When I get excited about something, or when I start talking about something, I start doing it really fast and I'm putting everything together and da-da-da-da. And, you know, sometimes when we are on the other receiving end of that side of the conversation, it can be just a bit much to listen to, you know? You can decipher it, of course, but I always like to say, speak in a manner in which to be heard. A little bit of pause, a little bit of punctuation goes a long way. And as we are playing it with our sleepy brains here, there's an opportunity here to breathe. Okay? And as we move to the next part, let's now then go down to our E7 flat 9. Okay? A lot of this kind of motion that we're going to be doing here is just lifting up our pinky to grab that open A note, because after we strum, we can lift it up. And as we move through the passage, just pick the notes within the chord. Okay? If you want to add a little pizzazz and do a little, pull off or whatever the case is, like that, that's totally fine too. Okay? But same thing. Exhale the phrase all the way to that A minor, which will sound like this. Just strumming the 3 strings there. Okay? And again, I'm doing all thumb. That's just my preferred tone here. But do you, okay? If you're doing finger picking, okay, or you're doing just 2 fingers or some other combination. Most importantly, we hear the melody in the phrases. Or, might even say, just hear the music. Okay? But with that together, there's the first 2 phrases of the tune. Move down. We're going to do it again. No, is it? I say with a sigh. And go back to E7 flat 9. That I love. And this is where it changes, right? Just a little change in theme here. Our pinky comes back down. You, so, and a full strum on A minor. Okay? Because all we're going to do from there is just repeat. Okay? So, we take it again from the top. Or maybe we just continue on even, really. All right? You bring out the moon and the stars up high. So, my dear sweetheart, this is not good. The moment that you strum A minor in this tune, especially at the end of those phrases, right, is when we're going to feel the sense of resolution. And, I think Ella Fitzgerald is probably, my personal favorite example of this. But choose, your favorite singers or your favorite instrumentalists, that play these types of ballads and kind of perfect for nighttime kind of songs like this to go to sleep to. A little bit of a little pause, okay? Just a little bit of extra space, especially towards at the end, right before the last resolution comes, can go so far, okay? And in fact, I find that oftentimes, as the player, when we get to that ending, we might perceive it as being actually pretty fast of a motion here, because oftentimes, the way that we perceive time is different, yeah, from the player's point of view and from the listeners. And so, my little piece of advice here is that when you're playing solo like this and we're, lilting into these phrases, when you get to the end, right before your last chord, just take another extra breath, okay? And hold on to that note for just a little bit longer than you think you need, okay? Because you're going to start to feel when you get to that end maybe an impulse to resolve, okay? Ride the wave, of course, but just hold it back just a little bit towards the end, and you'd be surprised on how much that can kind of, again, create these kind of lilting and rolling forward phrases. So, for example, if I were just to take the end again, so my dear sweet love, this is not goodbye, okay? Tiny little pause. Feel the motion of the harmony, right? And then hold it back a little bit. Okay? Oftentimes, if you can feel it, it's easier for your audience to feel it too. Okay? All right. So that's the minor lullaby. Let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the tunes here, or the next song, I should say. All right. So let's move on now to the kind of next movement, if you will. It's really like another tune, but works kind of, I think, nicely in conjunction here, as that's a relative key to our minor lullaby that we played earlier in A minor. Here, we switch on to what I've called mahina, or in Hawaiian means moon. And here, basically, as we go down, line by line here, we see a little bit of a development of a theme here, and the key is C major, the relative major of A minor. And, one of the things here, I always want to consider, ukulele friends, just as a visualization as we go through this, is that your ukulele loves the key of C. So, not only is the 3rd fret a wonderful place to think of when you're in the key of C, but as we have a fret marker here on the 5th fret, on the 7th fret. I have the island of Maui here, but, you might see on your ukulele on the 10th or the 12th, depending on your make and model, okay? Use those as guidelines as we move up and down the fretboard, okay? And just like the minor lullaby too, ukulele friends, please go slow, yeah? Go phrase by phrase. I'm going to walk you through it, here, but, feel free to pause and rewind, and most importantly, keep the nice kind of flowing, elongated sounds out of your ukulele. Yeah, I think it works kind of nicely again, phrasing-wise. All right, so for the first part of mahina over here, what's basically going to happen for the first 8 bars is we're going to do a little bit of a 1 to minor 4 chord change. And, the chord change itself, I feel like does a lot of the work for us already. If we think about lovely songs like, White Christmas, everything from White Christmas to Claire de Lune to, Till There Was You, we have this lovely kind of melancholy, nostalgic chord change. I'm just playing it in a position down here, just to give you a sense of what the sound is like. It's like if you were to go. Perfectly delicate harmony. And a beautiful way to go to sleep. So, in our case here, let's take a look. We're going to start off on C major, and again, utilizing some open strings in those frets, right? 3 and 5. Go to another C major, higher up on the fretboard. And we move on to this F minor chord, F minor 6 technically. Here. We sustain this extra little note over here on the A string, and it kind of helps tie the phrase together. Okay? From here, we're going to do another inversion or position of F minor 6, which suspiciously looks like a G7 chord over here on the 4th and 5th fret. Okay, and if we don't touch the G string here, strumming the higher 3 strings, you can get a really beautiful, delicate tone. Okay? Even if we move along with the piece here, it actually repeats the theme again. So same idea, where it's going to go. then to an F minor 6 here this time, barring the 8th fret, and then back to our friend. Down here, the G7 shape on 4 and 5. Okay? That's going to be the first 8 bars, which, let me play it for you one more time. Okay? And think about the phrasing again, too, because we can kind of lilt our way into it, which will give you not just some extra time to move your fingers, but just musically sounds nice. Okay? So... nice sound. We do it again. And we change the voice. And then back down. Okay. All right. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to start to maneuver the theme a little bit, and we're going to have some chord changes here. Okay. I'm going to be moving over to our major 4 chord before returning back to our minor 4. Okay. Now, starts off the same, okay, as we move on. Also, it's labeled C, by the way, Mahina, Theme, and Development, okay? Starts off the same. Now here, we're going to have a 2-5-1 in the key of F, or G minor 7, C7, and F in position, or chord change-wise, I should say. Position-wise, it's kind of nice. It's going to look kind of similar to this G7-ish shape. Okay, we're going to be utilizing that a lot here, because if we do this here on between frets 6 and 7 here, okay, skipping the G string, what we have is 7, 6, 8. Beautiful G minor 7 chord. Okay, in fact, we should take a moment here, friends. Can we do this? G minor 7, and what I want you to do is tuck in your finger so it looks like a G7 chord, but it's a C7. Okay, but just this motion. Take a moment. Okay, because the whole next part here is going to sound like this. And a lot of that kind of back and forward motion. Get a rocking feel. Okay, and it's going to dovetail really beautifully into measure 21 here as we go to F6. Okay, and actually technically I'm a major 7 at this point. Back and forth. Okay, so I think right there is a nice little bite-sized piece, actually kind of a big bite even too, if we consider coming from earlier. Okay, continuing on, I'm going to go back down. That 7th fret right there. And we're going to go up the fretboard. You're going to take this whole position and go all the way up to the 8th fret. Okay? Take your time to adjust. Barring higher on the fretboard often takes a little bit of a different angle in the finger. Okay? So, maybe find where you are. Release your hand and come back down. Take your time and give it a nice strum. Okay? This might potentially be the climax of the piece. Yeah? You give one beautiful strum on this chord, and then you release it. And give one extra little strum. Okay, it does end that measure with that 10th fret being plucked, but that's just the pickup for the next phrase. Okay, because here again we've kind of start to feel a sense of rest here. We might inhale, so to say, take a breath in to sing the next phrase. Okay, all right, all together, taking it nice and slow. Please play what you can, and again, as a reminder, okay, go phrase by phrase, stop the video and take your time. Okay, like this. All the way up. Release. Okay. All right. I think it's a good moment to release your hand because of all the barring and to relax it. You can just do a little open and close. You let it fall by the side of your wrist. Your waist. Your wrist below your waist. And give it maybe a little shake. Yeah. Release your arm. Okay. All right. Okay. Now from here, we go on to the next section, the D section here. We have this lovely chord progression, what's referred to as the 3-6-2-5. Okay, and this is often a turnaround here because our chord changes, and let me show you the big shapes these are based off of. Yeah, because often if we think by shape, it's a little bit easier to find the melody notes in between. Okay? We're going to have E minor 7, which is barred over on the 7th fret, 7, 7, 7. Then we're going to go to an A7 flat 9, which looks like a diminished chord over on the 6th fret. I call this the break your heart chord. Because then you have this chord progression. Okay. A nice melancholy sound. Then we go to D minor 7, which is going to be barring the 5th fret. And to conclude at least this section here, we are going to go to G7 flat 9, okay, which is going to be the same position but lower. And hey, friends, parallel motion. Okay, as we move down the fretboard. So, okay, here, all we're going to do is just put a melody around that and wiggle our fingers around it just to kind of find some of the other melody notes too. Okay, so I'm going to do a little pickup here on bar 24. Okay, that's where we were just moments earlier. Okay, and if we recall, right? Actually, let me rewind a little bit. So, da, 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 da. We moved up. Da, da. Okay, that little 10. Da. And now we start the E minor 7. Here's bar 25. La, da, da, la, da, la. A7 flat 9. Here's a phrase. Okay? I would even say maybe we should even practice that again, right? La, da, da, la, da. Pivot. I like to use my index finger as a guiding way to move over. And sit. So beautiful. Sit on the chord for a moment. Okay? Okay, because here, what we're going to do next, our pinky is going to extend out for the next measure. It's just a little effect on our A7 flat 9. Same thing. Okay? Heartbreak. So if I'm going from bar 25, la, da, da, la, da, la, pinky. And this should look a little familiar. Okay, if you look directly above it, even in fact, that's what we used in one of the earlier phrases. La, 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 D. Picking this note over here, that E. Barring D minor 7. Okay. In anticipation for G7 flat 9. Here. We're going to pick that C note before we move on to the ending. Okay. It's a little more complicated, a little more ornate here as we move forward in the tune, but even if we take our time and play it arrhythmically even, not even rubato, but arrhythmically, you know, we can still find beautiful things here. Okay, so let me play it for you. Okay, one more time. Okay, from bar 25. And let's do the ending here. Simple and wide. We go back and restate the theme in the beginning, but a little different. A lot more open space here, okay? And I'm going to encourage you to experiment and have fun with the positions here, okay? But we go back to C. Okay, big C major chord. And we're going to tuck in that tiny little F minor 6 that we were playing earlier. The one that looks like a G7 chord on the 5th fret. Back to C, repeat. And to wrap up the tune, have a nice little shiny C major 7 all the way up on the 7th fret, 0077. Okay, and I really do encourage you to articulate this in how you'd like. Strum down. If you want to open up the chord, finger pick, okay, or some other technique. And that completes the tune, okay? So, before we wrap up, what I would love to do for you, ukulele friends, is play the whole thing for you, okay? In fact, all the way from the top of the page, okay? I'm going to call out the sections as I move through them. to the best of my ability. Okay. Um, but again, one of the things I'm going to encourage you to do, I can't stress it enough. I know I probably sound like a broken record, but please, please take your time to stretch out the phrases. Okay. That's where the fun, I feel like, is really going to happen for you, and the beauty too, which often are coincided with each other. All right. Let's take a listen from the top, friends. A little sleepy ukulele. This is the minor lullaby moving into Mahina, or moon. Okay, see? Is this the D section? Ending? And of course, you always got to remember to, as we move through written music and things of that sort like this, this is just a representation of what happens here. Okay? So use this as a way to find the poetry and find the music within yourself. Okay? And it's just know from the composer. It's kind of fun to say. Okay? Just know from the composer. Okay? This is a sleepy tune. It's intended for you to take your time and enjoy the little corners of the tune. And above all else, your own playing and the sound of your beautiful ukulele. All right? So, take your time, my friends. Have fun with that sleepy ukulele tune. And hey, stay beautiful out there. We'll see you next time. Oh, hey, double.